Earlier this spring, we released our first ever desktop editor and librarian for LVX. And now, MercuryX is compatible with the latest release of prEDITOR. It's available for free on our website. We allow such easy to use drag and drop features. This is going to take both award-winning LVX and MercuryX to new heights in speed, organization, workflow with your patches and libraries. For those who are well-versed in prEDITOR, you won't need to watch the entire tutorial, but we have added new feature enhancements. You can now toggle between LVX and MercuryX. For the new MercuryX users, welcome aboard and let's begin. For those who are familiar with prEDITOR using LVX first, you won't need to watch the entire video tutorial. The interface for both MercuryX and LVX are identical. However, there are a few functionality changes that we have added, and so I'm going to quickly show you for those who want to jump to those chapters. The first thing that I'm going to show you is what we call the toggle switch, and there will be a chapter in which I'll discuss the whole setup for connecting between two devices. The icon is located right to the device name. Click on that, and now we're in LVX. These two devices are in sync, and I have already brought in all the presets, and so you're not seeing the import process. But if the two devices are properly synced, then you'll be able to toggle back and forth. The other functionality change that we added is the bypass switch. You will not see this button in the rest of the video tutorial, and it's because we added this last. When the bypass switch is engaged and you click on it, it'll be lit either blue or green depending on which device that you're in. And you can also click on the first three switches of your physical device as well. Let's go to LVX. And in categories, you'll notice that the field for the time or the BPM now flashes, and we added that subtle visual cue so that you can sync to your music. So those are the three visual additions that we've added. And so for the LVX users, those will be the main things that you'll see that's different. So the first thing when you open up prEDITOR is you're going to be met with this modal, and I'll explain the modal in the next segment. For now, select your device. prEDITOR will know you're a new user and will save your presets from your physical unit to a new library with a current date. I do need to go over a few things to make sure that your unit is properly synced with prEDITOR. Make sure that your unit is updated with the latest firmware for MercuryX. prEDITOR is not going to work without MIDI, so you will need proper 5-pin DIN cables and a MIDI interface or a device. We have found that MIDI devices each have their own behaviors, and so we do recommend some more than others. And finally, you do need to properly power your unit, and that would be a 9-volt DC center negative 300 milliamp. When you first open up prEDITOR, you will be met with this modal. Let's select your device. And when you select your interface, prEDITOR will remember which interface you selected thereafter. Also, make sure that your MIDI channel in your physical unit matches with prEDITOR. So I set it to 2 for MercuryX. And make sure that in your globals in MercuryX that you set it to MIDI out and not MIDI through. Here's where you're going to receive all 99 of your presets from MercuryX, and Bo set it to a conservative wait time because we have found that the combination of computers and various MIDI devices all have different wait times. And here it is. The resolution is set to laptops, but you can always scale it. I'm going to show you prEDITOR from top to bottom, and the first thing that you want to notice is which device that you're connected to. Currently it's MercuryX, but what's new to prEDITOR is the toggle switch, in which you can toggle between devices, and we'll go over that in another segment. Above that is which preset that you're parked at. And so if you single click around, you'll notice the changes. Or you can highlight the number and hop around. And you'll see that the highlight will hop. Below the preset name is a drop down, and we're currently in what we call live device, or in other words, your physical unit. Below that is factory presets, which you can access anytime or duplicate those, as well as all the libraries that you created, and that's in your libraries, and we'll go over that later. For now, let's go back to live device. So how do you know that you're properly synced with your live device? Well, it's in orange, and so as a test, let's pull out a MIDI cable. And prEDITOR will detect a disconnection, and so it'll have you open your settings, but for now, let's dismiss. Just so that you can see that the icon turns gray and it says not connected. And so let's put the MIDI cables back in. And we're in. The live device was designed to audition on the fly and was designed fairly non-destructive for a reason, to protect your unit so that you can't easily overwrite or make any changes. What we want to do is route you to do the heavy editing in your libraries, and we'll go over that later. But you can do some quick changes in live device. And the first thing that you can do is quickly rename a preset. So go to the upper left-hand corner, and we're now in preset 1, and let's do a rename. And what I designed is to have it so that it's consistent with the UI in the physical unit. And so you'll notice that the edit icon shows up, and it's basically saying, hey, you made a change, would you like to save it? And so as soon as you hit save, it's been written over to your live device. You can also make parameter changes on the fly by double-click any of your presets, and now you're in the category section. If you make any parameter changes, you'll notice that the save button will show up because it detects a change, and it'll ask you if you want to save over to your device. Again, the live device is to protect your presets, so you do need to go out of your way to go on the upper left-hand corner to save any changes, and it was designed this way for a reason. Now you know when your live device is properly synced, and so besides single clicking in your presets or hopping between presets using changing the numbers, you can also move around the presets by using the C3 encoder. You can quickly save all your presets from your live device by clicking Save to Library, and right away all the presets have been saved in your libraries. And you'll see that it'll say that you copied from your live device, and it'll date and timestamp for you. We're currently in the libraries, and in Saved Libraries, you'll see the library that says live device and the date. You'll also see it reflected here. New to prEDITOR is the toggle switch, which is the icon located to the device name. We properly sync to MercuryX. Let's go ahead and click on it. One way to connect between two devices is by literally swapping cables, which I've tested it that way. Another is to have multiple MIDI devices. or be connected to a MIDI interface. I mentioned before that the modal will remember what device you selected after you selected a device. In this case, Angelo taught me how to daisy chain between two devices, and so I learned that. And so let's select the same device. And I'll show you in another segment Angelo's cheat on how to daisy chain using a single device. Make sure that the physical unit, the MIDI channel, matches with what you enter in the modal. So for MercuryX, I had it on MIDI channel 2, and LVX, I had it on 1. What Angelo advised to me is that when you daisy chain between two devices and it passes through messages, that one will be slower than the other. And that'll compound as you add more pedals to the chain. This behavior is to be expected. Again, you want to notice what device that you're connected to. We're connected to LVX. Each device will have its own thematic color. LVX is teal. Let's hit it again. We're in MercuryX now. You'll see that all the presets are of MercuryX and LVX. I hope that this toggle switch will make it super fun to be able to hop between devices so that you can sculpt your sounds really quickly and easily. So signal flow, as you know, is simply just the signal flowing going in and out. And so I'm going to show you a simple setup for MIDI, but also teach you or relay to you what Angelo taught me on how to daisy chain between two devices using just one MIDI device, in case you only have one at the moment. So for MercuryX, one of the things also I learned from Angelo is that, so for instance, I have a UM1 MIDI device, and some accessories are labeled to say 2 MIDI out or 2 MIDI in. And what that means is they literally want you to put it in that specific jack. So let's say this says 2 MIDI out. So you want to put it literally in there, 2 MIDI out. MIDI in. Make sure that the notch is at the top. MIDI in. But some cables and some MIDI devices do not have that label, and it might not be the case. And what we notice is that a good number of people would, let's say, email us and say, oh, prEDITOR's not working. A majority of that were simple mistakes of not connecting the cables correctly. Now, if you wanted to utilize the toggle switch, which I explain in a different segment, in which you could quickly toggle between two Meris devices. You can literally swap the cables between two pedals, and I've tested it that way. Or you can have two MIDI devices, or you can utilize a MIDI interface. But there's also a cheat that Angelo taught me in which you would daisy chain between the two devices using one MIDI device. But note that when you're importing your presets to prEDITOR, that it's a normal behavior as it's passing through signal that one will be slower than the other, and that could compound as you add more. So for this setup, I'm going to do it this way. So I have my UM1 device, and I'll keep MIDI out for MercuryX, and you take this MIDI in, and you literally put it in the MIDI in jack for LVX. MIDI in, it says. But that's not it. You also need a single MIDI cable like this. And so for the MIDI out, for LVX, you want to complete the signal flow and put it in the MIDI in for MercuryX. Make sure that both pedals are powered sufficiently, and that'll be your setup. Lastly, you want to make sure that in your globals between the two pedals that the MIDI channel are not shared. So they have to be assigned its own separate channel. So go in your globals, and in MIDI channel, I set MercuryX to 2, and in my globals for LVX, I set it to 1. Then when you go into the modal, you're just selecting the same device, but you need to make sure to select the correct MIDI channel that you assigned per pedal. To import an external library, you can do it 2 ways. Be sure to be in the libraries, and you can hit Import External Library, locate your JSON file, and import it that way. Or you can drag over a JSON file, drop it directly over a title, and right away it's copied over, and you can see it reflected in your dropdown in, I called it Live Session, and it's in the Save Libraries, and again reflected over here on the left-hand corner. In libraries, there's Save Libraries and there's Library Organizer, and I'll explain the difference between the two. In Save Libraries, you're going to be focusing one library at a time, and this is where your heavy editing takes place. In Save Libraries, you'll have access to factory presets. You can't edit this, they're locked, but you can duplicate them, as well as one fresh library. You can also create new libraries by single clicking, and each time you click, it'll advance numerically, and it'll reflect down here on the drop-down box. You can also import external libraries from your disk. You can send all from your physical unit or receive all from your MercuryX into the existing library that you are parked at. So let's go back to factory presets, and let's go ahead and duplicate that. And you'll see a copy is created, and it's reflected down here, as well as down here. And let's go ahead and rename it. And anytime you make a change of a library, it'll be instant. In your library, within each preset, there's an info dialog box. Click on that. And because I copied this from factory presets, you'll see the preset name, description, and tags. You can also export single presets, again by clicking, and hit export. And you can export a sysex file to wherever you like. Let's click off. What I love about what Bo implemented is the easy drag and drop feature. So you can use these grip handles and drag them wherever you like. And so it's going to ask you to either swap or replace. Let's go ahead as a test to replace. And you'll see now preset 12 is 2 worlds. Let's do it one more time. And this time let's swap. And now preset 2 is tiled room, and preset 13 is deep blue. In your library, this is also where you're going to assign your favorites bank. And so with the drag and drop feature, just drag any preset over to your favorite bank, and it's been assigned. And you'll notice that each time you assign a preset, a heart will appear, and the bank has been created. To export single presets, go to the info dialog box. As I mentioned before, you can rename your preset names on the top left-hand corner, but you can also rename it in the info dialog box. So let's do a test. Again, any changes you make, the edit icon shows, and let's go ahead and save it. Let's click back to the info dialog box and let's export it. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. Let's say a friend shares you a preset, or you download a preset from patch storage and you want to import that. All you have to do is drag the sysex file to any location. And now preset 8 is test, test, test. I mentioned before about tags, and let's just say that this preset has pitch. And let's search for pitch. And you'll see that pitch is found in test, 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 and found it right away. To quickly empty out a preset, Bo implemented something really easy. Just right-click any preset and hit Reset Preset. That's it. In libraries, there's Save Libraries and Library Organizer. And in Save Libraries, I mentioned that you're focusing on one library at a time. Let's go to Library Organizer. In Library Organizer, it's primarily organizing. And so let's select between Jinna's library and a fresh blank library. And here is where you can swap and replace presets easily by easy drag and drop methods. Let's go ahead and hit replace. And here you'll see that my preset 4 from my copy factory presets are now in preset 4 in this blank library. Let's try drag and dropping and hit swap. Now 11 is chant and 10 is blank. Not only you can quickly drag and drop presets, but you can also drag and drop full banks. So let's grab the word bank, hover over bank 4, and right away the full bank has been copied over. Remember that in Library Organizer, you cannot assign the favorites bank. That's where you will need to do it in Save Libraries. But in Library Organizer, you can copy things over and you can move things around. In libraries, this is where you're going to be focusing one library at a time. But this is also where you're going to be changing the parameters per preset. Let's double click on any of the presets and you're in categories. At the top of the header, you'll see all the parameters listed. And at the end is what I call the quick view doc. Let's click on that. And this is where you'll see the values or what is enabled or disabled per parameter. So how can you tell? Pre-delay, it's set to standard. Reverb is cathedra. Just look straight down. The square is disabled, and if you click on that, some will look empty, but all you have to do is just click on the type, and there we are. In prEDITOR, I wanted the graphics to be consistent with the UI of the pedal, but there are certain changes so that I wanted it to be easy to understand, and one of them is the signal flow map or the location map right here. I just felt like this would be much easier to understand, and so you can enable the location by clicking on any of the dashed lines, single clicking, and right away it's enabled. Let's go to modifiers. You'll see in modifiers that it is set to 1, and that just means that out of the 6 modifiers, 1 was enabled. And some of these pages are going to have a scroll bar, and you'll see that hold was assigned. But if you keep scrolling, you'll see that all the others say none. The same thing with expression pedal. Out of the 6, it says that 1 is assigned, and it looks like expression A source was assigned. And all the others will say none, 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 Lastly, how can you tell which preset that you're on or which preset you're changing? Well, just look at the top left corner and you'll see that you're in preset 13. How do you navigate that? Well, one is, as I mentioned, you can hop around by entering preset numbers, right? Or you can go to Libraries, navigate around, and click on your preset, and that's what preset that you are editing. Also, very important is that you want to make sure that you're in the right library that you want to edit. And so, as you know, all the libraries share the same number of presets, and so just make sure that you're editing the correct library. I'm going to show you the option on how to save your presets. And so let's double click on a preset and let's make some value changes. And you'll notice that any changes you make, again, the edit icon will show and it'll ask, would you like to save it? We can save it, but there's also a drop down arrow and you can do a save as. And this is consistent and similar to saving as in the pedal. And so let's hit save as. And let's save preset 10 to 1. And let's go to Libraries. And you'll notice that preset 10, chant, is now preset 1. LF and RF means left favorite and right favorite, and each preset you can assign 2 of your favorite parameters on the left-hand side of your screen and on your right-hand side of your screen. And so in preset 1, chant, the modulate vowel A is on the left-hand side as ah, and on the right-hand side is vowel B as ah. So you can, again, hop around preset numbers or go to your libraries, click around, then go to LF and RF, and this is preset 16 of the LF and RF assigned. The globals is very straightforward. The changes are instantaneous. In this particular case, when changing graphic view to text view, you'll see it right away on the screen of your physical pedal. prEDITOR does not properly sync unless your global MIDI setting is set to out and not through. And one of the things that's been implemented is that if it is set to through, prEDITOR will have a dialog box that'll say that there is a disconnection or it's not properly synced. And so it'll have you open the settings, hit OK. It'll revert to MIDI out automatically in the pedal and in your globals in prEDITOR. I'm not going to go through every single one, but for instance, the tuner reference, there is a min and a max. And so the minimum is 425. And the maximum is 455. Anything beyond that will turn orange. You can change the BPM and milliseconds by single clicking here or to the side. Or to the side of the box. For BPM, it's 24 to 60,000. For milliseconds, it's 0 to 2540. That's it for the tutorials. Thank you all so much. First and foremost, I want to thank Terry and Angelo who have emboldened me to design my first ever UI and UX, starting with LVX, then on to MercuryX. That led me to the venture and passion project of designing my first ever software that is prEDITOR today. Of course, I couldn't have done this without my friend of 18 years. Bo, thank you so, so much. I'm blown away by everyone's encouragement of prEDITOR. I hope that it gives you a smooth, intuitive workflow while you're going on with your sonic adventures. Have fun exploring!